Hi, and welcome to the last part of how to create your great performance tasks. Today we're going to look into how to submit everything. And the important thing to note here is that we're going to do our submission in three parts. There's component A and component B that are just here for the purpose of College Board to grade your work and see what your project is. And then we have component C, which you're gonna see during your exams. So in the FAQ part of your AP exam, you're gonna see this component C, or the four, depending on the question, the corresponding subparts of this component, so that you have them as a reference to answer the questions. All right, let's go and start with component A. And then we're gonna spend some more time on component C because you're gonna need this during the exam. So for component A, we need to hand in the full code of our projects. And if we go back, if you guys remember, I created this dog app here where you could select one of the dog breed groups, and then you get a random dog and a random picture. This was my code here. And before submitting this code, make sure that you really have this this disclaimer here that you're using a table from code.org. It's really important that you state everything every outside dependency that you're using in your program. So make sure you have this comment, and also make sure you have comments like I do here that explain what else is going on in the code. You don't need a lot, just do it like me and add a few comments that explain what each part of the program does. And then when you're ready, go to show text, make sure you select all of the text here, and then go to the links in the description of the video. I'm gonna link this one here, and you can just open up this little app. You can put your code in here. You can leave the project title empty. If you want to put something in there, that's fine, but just make sure you don't put anything in there like your name, because it's not allowed to identify you in any way. And then you just press the print button, and this will allow you to print it. And what you got to do is save as a PDF, and then you're done. You have a file. You can name this component A now, and then later you can submit this component A in the AP portfolio. All right, that's it for component A. Now let's check out what we got to do for component B. So for component B, guys, you have to create a video of your app. And the important things here is max 1 minute, so make sure you don't record anything longer than 1 minute. And don't record your voice or show your name or anything that could identify you. Again, like in component A, we're not allowed to have any info here that could identify who we are. So make sure to keep this in mind. And then how to do it: if you're on a Mac, I'm going to show you how to do this with QuickTime Player. If you're on Windows 11, you can use the snipping tool. The snipping tool actually has a feature now since Windows 11 to also record the screen. You just have to switch to the camera. And if you're on another device, then just Google or ChatGPT how to do this to find another tool that lets you record the screen. And now how to do it, I'm going to go back to code.org here. So as I said, I'm going to use QuickTime Player. So let me open this one up. It's going to start up with this window, but I'm going to just close this. And in case you cannot see this in the recording, that's possible. You have to go to File and then click onto New Screen Recording. And sorry, the window here popped back up. Just ignore this, and I'm gonna, oh yeah, now it's gone, thank you. And I'm gonna click onto record now here. I'm just gonna select the area of my app. You don't have to show, or you should not show, any code. This is just for showing how your app works, but not showing any code. And make sure on the previous step here to select that you don't record any sound in the settings, so mic should be off. And then here I'm just going to go through a few examples. I'm going to click this, wait a second, press the random button so that the user sees what's happening, do another one, press the random button, something like this. You can keep in mind maybe how you would explain this, so you leave some time on this video. and then let me stop the recording. I can save this video. I can name this component B now, and what AP encourages you to do is to add some subtitles. So especially if your app is a little bit more complicated, then definitely add subtitles. Or if you think it's not completely obvious what your app does, then add subtitles so that you explain what's happening, and you can explain stuff like the user chooses one of the options and then the app will do this, and that you don't have to explain how it works in terms of the code, but just explain what's going on if you want. As I said, this is optional, but it's encouraged to do this. Yeah, and you can use any software, of course. I guess a lot of you might be familiar with CapCut, so feel free to use this. And now let's go to component C. This one is so important because you're going to see this on the actual exam, and you need this as a reference to answer questions. So first thing, it's very important that you don't have any comments on those screenshots here. You're not allowed to have anything that explains what is going on. So I'm going to go to code.org now. I'm going to switch back to the blocks because it's easier to work with, and I'm going to drag all of my comments here and take them out. No comments are allowed to be left in here. If you want, you can add spacing between the things. So now, since everything is so scrammed here, I might want to add like a line of code, like an empty line between those two here so that it's a bit more readable. That's completely fine, but you have to remove all the comments. Now let's figure out which parts we have to screenshot of the code. So let's go back to the slides. First, we have to look into the procedure. And you can also, if you're not sure, or if you did something that is a bit different than my app, it might be useful to go to the handout here for the create performance task, and then scroll down to component C and read this once. So the important thing for the first part, for the procedure, is that you need to take a screenshot of your procedure. This is your function on code.org, and it needs to be the first function that appears in your code. In my case, I only have one here, but if you have several functions, then make sure that the first function in your code is the important one that you want to screenshot. For this function, you need to make sure that return type, you don't need, this is only if necessary, so return type, you don't need this, but your function has a name, of course. It needs to have parameters. So if you check out my code here, this is my parameter, the breed group. If you don't have a parameter, you don't fulfill the requirements. So make sure your first function in your code has a parameter or more than one. And then we need to implement an algorithm that includes sequencing and selection and iteration. This is, in this case, our for loop. So make sure you have the for loop that goes over the list and that has an if statement in there to select some sort of data. This is what is required for this one. And now what do? We just take a screenshot. We have removed all of the comments. You can zoom in a little bit or zoom out. If your code goes too far to the right and something is cut off, then feel free to zoom out. You can also use the zoom here with the Control or Command plus or minus in your browser to get more or less space around the things. And then when you found a good size where you make sure it's not pixelated so that you can read it, then you just use the shortcut on your computer for screenshot. You select everything from the beginning of the function block to the end. So you start in the line where it says function, you select everything until the green block ends. So this is the first thing you need to screenshot. Done. Now you can rename this screenshot, just name it component C procedure 1 or so that you know what it is. And we're good. Let's move on to the second one here. In the second one, you need to show where your procedure is called in your program. Also, I have this on here. So this is, in the case of my example, a screenshot of the yellow OnEvent block. This is where the call happens. So if you check this out, the OnEvent block here is when the user clicks a button, then we actually call filter and select, which is this method here. So Again, maybe zoom in, but make sure everything is on there. Then put in your command for a screenshot and then select the whole OnEvent block, if you did the same thing as me, that contains this green block here with the same name as the function. This is the call. So make sure to take the whole OnEvent block to show where this happens in your code, and you're done. You can name this now component C procedure 2. This is the second screenshot here. And we're done with the procedure part. Let's move on now to the second bit here, to the list part. So first thing, you need to capture the segment where you store data in your list. I also have this on my slide here. So in our case, this is the part where you call getColumn to load all the data from the code.org data set. So let's go back here. You see, in my case, it's 3 variables. You might have more or less, but all the stuff where I call getColumn to load the data is where is the part that I need to screenshot. So again, I'm going to start here in line 1 and end in line 3 to capture all of the data loading. And we're done. This is component C, list 1. Rename the screenshot so that you keep track of everything. And then the last bit, now we need to screenshot where we actually make use of the data. So the segment where the data is being used of the list, such as creating new data from the existing data or accessing elements and so on. I have this in a bit more simple words on here. So it's a screenshot of the for loop that does the filtering of the data. All right, so back to my code. There's a lot of different options, I think, for this one here, because it's not 100% defined what you got to do. But what I would do in my case is I would take all of the filtering. So I would skip the random selection. I would focus on the filtering in my case and capture all of this. Or potentially, if you want to skip this part, you could also just do the for loop, because this is the part of the code where you access the data and you filter it and you change the data. You create new data based on the original data. So yeah, this is the part of the code that you can screenshot either with the definitions here, the declarations here, or without. And you're done. This is your component C list part 2. And with this, you have everything you need. Now, only thing left to do is go to AP Classroom, and on the part of AP Classroom where it says where you have all the courses and where you see the AP Computer Science Principles course, there should be a link there on the bottom to AP Portfolio. And on the portfolio, you will see areas to upload all of these things. So you should have now named all your components in a good way throughout this video, and it will be very straightforward for you to just upload all of them.